The original StarCraft is probably one of the most influential games of all time. Many would argue that what we now call esports started with StarCraft, although its expansion Brood War has been played since the original release in 1998, its sequel has been rocking the competitive scene for over a decade. In this episode, I want to explain how StarCraft 2 can teach us a lot on game design, namely the rule of 3 options. At first sight, it might look like StarCraft is not as rich as other real-time strategy games. Let's compare it with another true classic of the genre, like Age of Empires 2. If you look at it in a very generic way, you will realize that StarCraft there are only 3 civilizations, whereas the current version of Age of Empires 2 has more than 30 of them. In StarCraft, you manage just 2 resources, minerals and Vespene gas. In Age of Empires 2, you manage 4 instead: gold, stone, wood, and food. So why is it that StarCraft is considered the pinnacle of the genre? Well, to understand this, we must look at a way simpler game first: rock, paper, scissors. In this game, you have only 3 options, and each one of them has obvious advantages and weaknesses. Just in case you came from another planet, rock beats scissors, scissors beat paper, and paper beats rock. We can extract 3 main conclusions out of this ancient game. First, there are 3 options. Second, none of the options has more chance of winning. And third, there are 2 people. So let's research on these bases: number of options, balance, and number of players. So what's the deal with StarCraft and rock, paper, scissors, you may say? Well, we have 3 races: the Terran, the Zerg, and the Protoss. Each one has not only weaknesses and advantages, but also a very different playstyle. If you compare it to Age of Empires again, it looks like in that game there are just 30 variations of the same race, whereas in StarCraft the 3 races play completely different. While Terran work like most of RTS games, the Protoss can teleport and need to build up a circuit of pylons in order to build up structures, whereas the Zerg have this purple creep in the floor, and their units are not created from buildings but from larvae. So why 3 options instead of 30? Well, here's the reason. 3 options happen to be enough for the player to feel there is a variety of possibilities, and at the same time it is easier to be uniquely designed by the developers. In fact, there is a famous rule in storytelling called the rule of 3, which says that a trio of events or characters works better than other numbers. If you think about it, you have 3 musketeers, 3 little pigs, the good, the bad and the ugly, etc. Even in visual art, there is a similar concept: the rule of thirds, which states that dividing the image layout into 3 rows and 3 columns is aesthetically perfect. There is even a Latin sentence that sums this up: omne trium perfectum, which means everything that comes in 3 is perfect. For game developers, the more options there are, the harder it is to bring more polished, unique gameplay mechanics. This idea has been applied many times in video games. We can take a look to the weapon triangle in the Fire Emblem series as well. Here, swords beat axes, axes beat spires, and spires beat swords. So if you have a swordsman, you should avoid lancers and go after X-Men. Not to mention MOBAs, in which you have to choose among 3 main lines: top, mid, and bot. Or other competitive games such as Overwatch, in which you may choose tank to protect your teammates, DPS to heal enemies, or support to heal your allies. The rule of 3 options is not only pretty interesting in terms of variety, but also in terms of balance. Balancing the game is what makes it fun to play. If it's not balanced, it feels unfair, and thus you may lose not because of your mistakes, but because of the designers. This is something that every single game on Earth should avoid. If I lose, it should be because one of my decisions was wrong, and thus I can eventually learn how to play properly and not only avoid my mistakes but read my rivals as well. So, in StarCraft 2 we can see that the 3 races are pretty balanced. First of all, let's think about the matchups. First, Terran versus Zerg, where Terran will manage siege tanks and marines in order to counter wave of Zerglings. Second, Terran vs Protoss, where both players will most likely wait until mid-game to attack each other, and aggressive rush strategies are not that common. Zerg vs Protoss, where Zerg will try to maximize economy and constantly harass their enemy in order to counter Protoss' fast expansion. And of course, 3 mirror matchups. As you can see, the rule of 3 options gives us just 6 matchups, and that is great. Think about fighting games for a second. In games like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which has more than 70 characters, the number of matchups is so big that it feels overwhelming. It is quite difficult for average players to properly learn every single matchup for your main character, and even harder for the designer to keep a balanced roster. In other words, the option you choose should not have any implication on winning. If the Zerg was superior to the Terran, that would mean the matchup is not decided by strategy, positioning, management, economy. It would mean it's decided by the very initial choice, and that would have been horrible in terms of game design. Another relevant thing to extract from the rule of 3 options is that it works if you have a duality of players. This means that you have 2 people or 2 teams, but no more. If you play a triangular game, StarCraft 2, you can see how horrible idea it is. If player A starts a battle with player B, both get weakened, and so player C can easily win. So if there are more than 2 factions, the one that is more defensive wins, which means it's boring as hell. As a matter of fact, almost every sport has just 2 teams. There is no triangular football, nor triangular basketball. In tennis, you may see 2 or 4 players, but always 2 teams. StarCraft is a fantastic video game series that I really recommend to all of you. Right now you have the original game plus its expansion for free in the Battle.net desktop launcher, as well as StarCraft 2 multiplayer scene and its first campaign. From the game design perspective, one of its main pillars is the rule of 3 options. For designers, this makes it easy to balance and easy to offer unique mechanics. For players, it means it's easy to learn and varied enough to have fun. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. This really helps me to reach more people. And also, please consider giving a look to my Patreon website, which is currently my only source of income. And also, for all of you who are right now in confinement, like I am, good luck. It's a tough moment and I wish you and your families the best. Thank you very much. See you in the next video by Ludo Pong.